Good morning, eighth graders. Welcome to our technology class. So this is week 29. So we are going to be doing a lesson this week, which is the last second step lesson. And there's no assignment with this lesson. So really, this is just an informational lesson to start getting you to really think about your life after you leave this school. So I know that many of you have been here for, gosh, since maybe pre-K. Maybe early elementary school, and you're really used to being in this place where people are very loving and you've had a pretty safe environment here, right? And there is a whole world out there full of broken people, and we're all broken as well, but at least we have Jesus. But there's broken people who do not have Jesus. And so what do? They use a lot of drugs, alcohol, all different things to fill their emptiness, right? And so our last lesson in second step has to do with drugs and alcohol prevention. And we've done this similar lesson in seventh grade and in sixth grade. They were more giving you a lot of knowledge about using drugs, alcohol. But this time we're going to be really focusing on thinking about your future and helping you to really think about, will you be somebody who does try drugs and alcohol? Or will you be somebody who says, no, that's not for me? And how will you be able to stay strong when everybody around you is doing something that you really don't want to be a part of? And so you really have to tie it to your goals. You know how we talked about goals a couple of weeks ago? And when you think about goals, drugs and alcohol can really get in the way of you achieving your goals because they can change how you are, and they can change your brain and your motivation, right? And your feelings and your emotions and your thoughts. And that can really impact you being successful in your life. So we're going to just watch a quick video before we get started, just talking about teens and drugs and alcohol. And I also want to show you guys a vaping video. So hang on. Okay, let's start with this video.
Understanding substance use and abuse. Understanding substance use and abuse. Misuse of substances like alcohol and drugs is a growing problem in the U.S., and teens and young adults are most at risk, with half of all new drug users being under the age of 18, and 1 in 5 high school students having abused prescription drugs. Additionally, 1/3 of high school students currently use alcohol, 23% use marijuana, and 22% use all forms of tobacco combined. Decision-making in teens involves a chemical called dopamine in the brain's reward center. Dopamine helps transmit signals in the brain that make people feel happy. The number of brain receptors interacting with dopamine is higher in adolescence than at any other time of life. That means that when a teen is exposed to a reward, such as a compliment, the reward center reacts more strongly than it would for an adult. Also, being with friends increases the sensitivity to rewards and makes the already sensitive reward system even more sensitive. Feeling rewards more strongly and responding more intensely to what peers may think means that there are biological reasons for why teens sometimes decide to do things with their friends that they would never do on their own. This can be positive by encouraging friends to take on new challenges, but it can also lead to dangerous decisions, such as drug and alcohol use. Drug use and abuse can contribute to harmful short- and long-term health risks. In fact, drug abuse can have long-term effects on a developing teenage brain. MRI scans of the brain have shown that people who have been using drugs for a long time have a smaller prefrontal cortex than people who have not been using drugs. The prefrontal cortex is the area where decision-making occurs. Drug use can result in poor grades, memory loss, and social problems. A lot of us have an idea about what a person dependent on drugs looks like. However, anyone can suffer from this type of addiction. Addiction doesn't depend on income, job, age, race, or color. It is a disease of the brain that can happen to anyone. Drug dependency is when a person consumes alcohol or drugs regularly, despite the fact that it causes issues in their life and relationships with others. Get help if you need it. Encourage your friends to get help too. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use or abuse.
Okay, so this was just kind of like a recap to help refresh your memory because we've learned more in depth in the previous years about, we went through alcohol and drugs, different types of drugs, but it really is something that a lot of teens do engage in. And maybe they're feeling stressed out and they use it as a way to cope, or maybe they just want to feel like they want to fit in. Something to really bring up is a lot of teens get hooked on prescription drugs. Maybe something happens and they have to go to the doctor, they get a prescription for a painkiller, and then they like how it makes them feel, and then they become addicted. Or maybe they just try it from somebody else who says, hey, try these pills, they make you feel great. This happens to adults a lot too. And they just can't stop because their body literally needs it. And whenever they're not experiencing the high that the drug gives them, they need more of it and they'll do anything to get it. And it's a really, really big deal these days. I would say the prescription drugs. And so because this is an issue, we have to have an awareness of it. And I mean, my best advice to you is just never start with anything. I don't know, everybody's family has different views on drinking. Some families may drink wine with their dinner or something. It's cultural, like I get that. But again, there's a reason why there's ages set up for drinking, right? Where it's legal, because they know when your body is old enough to be able to handle that. And then at that point, you can decide, okay, do I want to have a drink of wine? That's going to be something up to you. But what we're talking about right now is underage drinking and excessive drinking to the point where you're drunk and you're really harming your body. And that's what a lot of kids use, right, as a way to just cope with their life. Smoking weed or pot, marijuana, that's definitely something that's in the news a lot, especially because a lot of states have legalized it, right, where now it's more acceptable. And just because they've done that doesn't mean that it's magically safe. Cigarettes are legal. You can go and buy cigarettes when you're 18, but that doesn't make them safe, right? And I wanted to show a quick video on vaping because this is another really popular thing with teens right now because it's kind of like candy. They have all these different flavors that you can add into the e-cigarette and it tastes like bubble gum, cotton candy. And so kids think it's fun and they think it's harmless, but it really isn't. So let's watch this quick video.
I have a few goal choices that I'd like to be.
Oh, sorry about that. I literally just said a whole thing, but it wasn't recording. Okay, I'm kind of tired of doing these videos. So I can't even remember. I just said this whole thing and then I realized that the button did not record it. Anyways, I was just basically saying that, I pray and I hope that you guys will stay strong, and that the Holy Spirit will just bring to remembrance these lessons when you are feeling tempted to just join in and do whatever, the kids your age are doing at high school. And I get it. It's because you want to have the approval, you want to fit in, you want to feel good. And your brains aren't fully developed until you're in your mid 20s. And so it's hard to sometimes think clearly and make good decisions. But you really have to try to keep this in your mind. Keep yourself safe. You don't want to harm your body, right? God has amazing plans for you. And if you harm your body, then you're just getting in the way of, the amazing plan that there is for your life. Okay, so let's watch some kids sharing about their goals and, how drugs would get in the way.
I race motocross and I have for about 3 years now, and I want to become a pro motocross rider.
I have a few goal choices that I'd like to be. One of them is a research doctor.
My goals right now is to pass high school.
My dream is music. I love music so much. I mean, this is what I want to do when I go to college. This is what I want to study for 4 years.
So my long-term goals are to graduate from high school and then go to college for 4 years. And hopefully I can make it to the NBA because I like basketball. But if I don't do that, I'll probably want to be a real estate agent.
I really want to be a nurse or a doctor, and I want to study that when I go to college.
My dream is for when I get older is to be a choreographer.
One of my short-term goals for this year is an everyday kind of thing I can work on progressively is to make sure I get to all 6 classes on time.
Okay, so let me put on the next video that I want to show you guys.
Drugs and alcohol would get in the way of reaching my goal of being a professional motocross rider because drugs and alcohol damage your body. That's a no-brainer. You know that smoking can ruin your lungs, and you need your lungs because it's an endurance race. You have to have endurance.
I have a few goal choices that I'd like to be. One of them is a research doctor. And I think that'd kind of be hard to do that if I was like doing drugs, because that would really hurt you, and they have to be smart in order to do that, and alcohol can damage your brain, and neurons aren't replaceable.
And if I did drugs and alcohol, it would make me just like, I wouldn't be able to have a job in the future. Like, I'd probably drop out. I'd hang out with really bad kids. My family would just be like, oh, you know, just so devastated, and I wouldn't be able to do that.
Now that I have the chance to go to college, I could, study music, and I could go to an international school, to study music. And that for me is one of the greatest goals I've set for myself that I know that I can now accomplish because I didn't do drugs and alcohol. I didn't smoke. I didn't have those things to distract me.
Since I have goals to go to college and excel in basketball, drugs and alcohol really wouldn't be an option in my life at all. They could easily throw you off track. You could not wake up in the morning, be sick all the time, always want to party. You could get addicted easily. It's just not the way that I want to go.
And I think by using drugs and alcohol, it would delay that process, and it might not even be able to happen if I were to get on drugs and alcohol. And I think it would, if I were to start using it, I could end up pregnant, drop out of school, my grades would go down. I probably wouldn't be able to be a nurse or a doctor for a long time.
My dream is for when I get older is to be a choreographer and do all types of dances. And if I was to smoke and drink, that would just really make my body weaker, and then I wouldn't be able to do all the types of moves that I do, and I lose focus, and I wouldn't be able to concentrate on what I'm doing. I forget the steps, where my hand's supposed to go, where my foot is supposed to go.
It doesn't lead to anything good, it's sort of all headed, drinking and drugs is all sort of just headed for a dead end. You're not going to be able to jump right into what you want to do. You're going to have something holding you back, and that's not a good way to be. You don't want to have something holding you back, You want to have everything ready to go, for yourself.
Okay, so I really just hope this is helping you guys to think about your own goals, right? Your short-term and your long-term goals, and the consequences of getting involved with drugs or alcohol or vaping or prescription pills or anything, right? That would be getting in the way of you achieving your goals. And stopping and thinking that you're important. Your life is very important and valuable in the kingdom of God, because you're called to be world changers. And how can you change the world if you're stoned or you're drunk or you're completely wasted? It's going to be pretty hard, because you're not going to be able to think straight or get anything done. So you really have to think, like, what are you going to do next year when you're in high school? Maybe you do meet some kids who are into this stuff. Are you going to have kind of what you're going to say ready? Are you going to really be strong enough to say it? Like, hey, I don't really just do that stuff. I just want to stay on my goals. I want to achieve success, and I really don't want to waste time with that. Like, what are you going to say? Right? And hopefully you'll be the ones that are influencing other kids and not other kids influencing you, right? So it really is something for you to start thinking about now before you go into high school. Like, what will you say if you do get involved in a scenario like that? That way it's not just on the spot, like you've actually thought about it, right? So that's really all. I just want to do a short lesson just to kind of remind you guys about this topic. This is the last lesson in the second step 8th grade curriculum. So we're done with the lessons. And then when we get back from the break, be ready because we're starting with new assignments. We're moving right into coding. So get ready for your work. And if you didn't hand in any third quarter things, I mean, that's really on you because the quarter's over on Wednesday. So that's it. We're done. All right. So we'll see you guys after the break. Okay. Bye, guys.